Governor's executive orders, all of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference until further notice. So we ask the public to continually check the website, the town's website, for updates and new information. The link to participate in this meeting via Zoom can be found on the town's website. This meeting is also being live streamed on the town's website. If you do not wish to speak at the live meeting, but you would like to submit comments for the public record, the link to submit comments can also be found on the town's website. Board members who must recuse themselves from any application will state so on the record and will be removed from the meeting until the end of the discussion and vote on the application. Also, as a reminder, we ask that applicants and their agents please state their name and address for the record. I'd invite all to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America,
and to the republic
for which it stands,
one nation,
under
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Begin with a roll call, and we'll do the same thing as other meetings. State your name and raise your hand. Harry Ledlow, and George.
George Heim.
Tom.
Tom Rickenback.
And Jerry.
And you're muted.
And Michael.
Michael Tessitore, present.
We'll begin the agenda then with the acceptance of the October 28th, 2020 meeting minutes as written and or amended. Is there a motion?
So move.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
aye,
And Michael?
Aye.
And acceptance of the November 18th, 2020 minutes as written and or amended. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
I'm going to abstain. I don't believe I was at that meeting.
Okay. And Michael?
Aye.
Public hearing. Let's see. Yeah, we have a resolution to schedule the 2021 Conservation Board meeting dates. And
Motion to accept those dates as presented.
Second.
Second.
all in favor? Harry, aye.
Aye.
George? Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye,
Michael?
Aye.
Mr. Chairman, we also had minutes from November 18. If you'd like to
We
vote on
voted
those.
on those.
We did that.
So you did
We
the
did.
October 28 and the November 18?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, just want to make sure.
And now we have a presentation of wait file software and availability of Zoom meetings by Tara Cody.
Hi, can you all hear me?
Yes.
Well, thank you for having me for a moment tonight. We just wanted to give the board a quick rundown of what we've been doing in the town as far as trying to get a better service to people. So we did have some feedback from some of the professionals in the community that since they have been doing Zoom meetings with the various boards due to COVID, they wanted to be able to speak with the staff in the building department, and other departments will soon to follow, without having to come into town hall. And this is particularly helpful in situations like right now where we're down to 50%. And, you know, everybody can't be at the building at one time, but we should still be able to continue the town's business. So we did look into a waitlisting software. So I don't know if any of you have been to the doctor's office lately where you have to sign on, you have to fill out an attestation to say, hey, I don't have COVID, I haven't traveled, but in some circumstances you are put on a wait list. So now when people come into town hall, they can sign up, do their attestations online, as well as get onto a wait list. And then they can go back to their cars to wait to be called, or they can still wait in the lobby, but we do want them, especially since now that we are at 50%, sometimes the waits have been a little bit longer, giving them the option to wait in their car, go get a cup of coffee, or do whatever for the 30 minutes or 45 minutes that they're waiting seems to be something that they're agreeable to. The other part of this is the ability to make a Zoom meeting appointment with the inspector of the day. And that was one of the things that people in the public had asked us for. So every week there's a different inspector of the day on within the office of the building department. What we have done is we have a sign-on online where you can schedule an appointment even for a week in advance and have a half-hour meeting with the inspector of the day. So any questions?
Thank you,
Sounds
Tara.
like we're gonna be backed up.
I don't know
this
what
is
that
also
means.
going to, my understanding is this is going to also apply to our division. Is that correct? Just
Eventually.
To clarify for the board. Yes, right.
Eventually, when we, one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to obtain webcams so that people can have more Zoom meetings. But as you know, everybody in the COVID area wants a webcam. So we have had a hard time, getting these peripherals out to people.
How would that affect site visits?
It doesn't. So the inspector of the day is in the building on his scheduled day, no matter what, no matter before COVID, during COVID, the inspector of the day is in the building for that day. That has been how it has been set up. So for that day that he is in the building, then he is able to take Zoom meetings.
I would hope that they'd be able to do it from their home on the day that they're not in to get twice the work done, but.
Thank you, Tara.
Okay, any other questions? No? Okay. Well, thank you again, board, for allowing me to speak, and you all have a safe and happy holiday.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
We'll continue now with the public hearings. And Charles, I would assume you would just let people in the room as necessary for these hearings. I don't know if there's anybody waiting.
There's only two people here, Daphne Vaughn and one other person.
Okay.
I just let them in. They're in.
Okay. So public hearings, A020033 Cowneck Preserve LLC, and the applicant requests adjournment to December 16th, 2020. Is there anyone in the public who would like to speak in this application?
What's the reason for the request?
We recently had a on-site meeting with the supervisor and the trustees and the representatives for the applicant, at which time we discussed a number of options. We're in the process of preparing an alternative plan, which will be presented to the board at the next meeting.
But the trustees weren't eligible to take jurisdiction anyway, though, right? Or we discussed
No,
that?
they trustees do not have jurisdiction over this project. However, Eric Schultz, the president, was in attendance at the site meeting.
Motion to adjourn to December 16th.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
A019100, the Colonel's Way LLC.
This hearing is being adjourned to the second meeting in January. Karina, the date for that meeting is?
It's going to be the January 22nd. I'm at 27th, sorry.
Is there
Have we
anyone?
heard that one? We haven't heard this one yet, or is it new?
It
Yes.
looks like it is new.
Yes, it is.
Which one?
Okay, so did we have affidavits yet to be able to adjourn it, or?
Oh, no, we had previously opened the hearing and adjourned it.
Okay.
So is there anyone in the public who'd like to speak in this application?
Motion to adjourn to January 27th, 2021.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
I,
Jerry?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
A020052, Douglas Zolo and Lorraine Burke Zolo. Do we have affidavits?
We do have affidavits of posting and mailing. They are in order, and the board has jurisdiction to open the hearing tonight.
Thank you. Daphne, is this yours?
It is.
You may present your application.
Thank you. Daphne Vaughn, Surfside Environmental Planning for the Zolos. I did submit some photos. That's the survey, so we can obviously look at that first. Okay, so the story here is that this property was purchased by my clients, Doug and Lori Zolo, back in November of 2014. The Conservation Board issued a permit that was approved by a resolution in November 9th of 2016 for a 480 square foot 2-car detached garage with a studio above it. And then we reconfigured the driveway to access the garage as well and legalized a generator and platform at that time in that permit. In 2016, a naturally vegetated wetlands non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer was required, extending landward of the functional bulkhead, which was established through the planting of native vegetation. That buffer is in compliance to date. You see it there on the survey. A certificate of wetlands compliance was issued for the completion of that project February 15th of 2019. So at the present time, the owners are requesting to add a breezeway between the door to the house and the garage to provide protection from the elements while, crossing between the two buildings. Additionally, you'll see there's a pool deck on the south side of the property. We are proposing a small addition that will square off the pool deck with a fill-in of the remaining area in between the existing deck and the proposed addition. That addition will house a sauna and a bathroom that can be accessed directly from the deck, so people don't have to go through the house in the summer. All of the proposed work is going to take place within the existing development. So the property to the south of this, you'll note that there's a wetland boundary that was flagged by me in 2015. That property is a right-of-way that's accessed by the neighborhood for the access to Smiths Creek, the waterfront there. It's a naturally vegetated property that contains just a mowed pathway. So there's a 15-foot area between the existing decking and the property boundary to the right-of-way that is also comprised of native vegetation on the Zolo property. It's mostly mature cedar trees and some native grasses underneath it with the generator. So in the Environment Division report, Marty was requesting that we add the entire south side of the property to the covenanted buffer zone that was just established in 2016 with an additional triangle area landward of the bulkhead adjacent to the deck access stairway. So the property has a mortgage with Chase Bank and requires their approval for signature on the consent of mortgagee for the placement of a revised covenant on the property. When we went through the process with Chase for the first permit for the garage, it was delayed for 13 months due to Chase's processes for the signature on the mortgage consent. They required additional fees, an appraisal of the property, survey revisions, meets and bounds description of the buffer, all kinds of other applications and paperwork, and many phone calls back and forth with the people in the Land Transactions Department, which is located in Louisiana. It was an extremely frustrating process and very time-consuming, very costly to my clients. So we're here because we really don't want to go through that process again, because it was a nightmare. The additional area that Marty's requesting on the south side, like I said, is naturally vegetated. The decking for the swimming pool is elevated, so it's not an area that's used by my clients. If the pictures that I submitted can be brought up, you can see what I'm talking about.
Daphne, did you email those to me or were those hand delivered?
I emailed them to you. I also uploaded them when I signed in to speak today. So I don't know if Charles has access to them.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to get access to ones that were uploaded. Charles, do you know? Let me see. I'll check my email right now. Actually, hold on. I think I got them.
Yeah, I think I CC'd you on an email to Marty earlier this afternoon.
Yes, I found them. Hold on one second. Hold on.
Yep, that's them. So this first picture that you're seeing is taken from the existing dock out in Smiths Creek, looking at the property. You can see the buffer is there. It's comprised of beach grass. There's also some bayberry. I think there's beach plum in there as well. It's heavily vegetated. It's in great shape. It's definitely an enhancement to the property. If you scroll down, there's another view looking at the existing buffer.
And Daphne, we are looking west now, is that correct?
You are
Southwest?
looking, wait, where'd my survey go? Yeah, so it's standing on the dock looking west correctly. Correct, yes.
That's a pretty lush, dense stand of beach grass.
Yeah, it's really, really nice.
How long has that been there?
Well, they planted it 3 years ago for the buffer that was needed for the garage.
On 12 inches on center?
Yeah, I think so. That's what the plan called for. I drew the plan, so.
I've never seen beach grass reproduce so densely.
It's quite happy there.
That shows what the possibilities are.
Yeah. So if you scroll down, yeah, so this is just looking on the north side of the dock, additional beach grass. I think that's another bayberry that's in there. You can go to the next. Thank you, Karina. Yeah, so this one, I'm standing on the southeast corner of the property looking north along the buffer. So you can see it's not just the beach grass, there is a number of shrubs there. It should be beach plum, bayberry. All quite happy.
Is that the area that Marty wants buffered?
No, this was the original buffer that was required, so I just wanted to show you. So this is taken from the deck. That's the deck gate stairs for the pool enclosure. That's in the front of the picture, and that's looking out into Smiths Creek. You see in front of the bulkhead, they have a nice stand of Spartina alterniflora, so there's nice healthy wetlands right in front of the bulkhead with their nice buffer behind the bulkhead. That's Ponquag Bridge in the background. Okay, so this now is looking, what direction am I? I guess south from the pool deck into the right-of-way. So the cedars that you're seeing on either side of the photo are on the Zolos property. That view to the south is the right-of-way property that is accessed by the neighborhood for access into Smiths Creek. I have some other angles. Yeah, so this is a good one because this is taken from the right-of-way. Basically, all of those cedar trees are on the Zolos property. You see there's some native grasses along with them. So there's really no reason for them to touch this area. It's not a lawn area that's being mowed. It's not being maintained in any way. It's basically a naturalized extension of the right-of-way. So there's no reason for them to do anything there. If you go down to the next photo, I think there's two more. Yeah, so this one you can see the actual house and the deck inside there. You see the vegetation.
Daphne, am I looking at beach grass in the bottom part of this photo?
Yeah, that's the beach grass that's on the right-of-way property. It actually doesn't look as dense as what's on the Zolos property.
No, it doesn't. It's very different.
And then there's one last photo. Yeah, so this is just a further out view looking back at the house from the right-of-way at the vegetation that's there. So you see the deck is elevated. There's really no reason for them to be down there like having a party or doing much of anything. It's acting as a natural barrier for privacy, really, when people are walking in there that are part of the neighborhood. So it's beneficial to my clients to keep it there.
Daphne, those cedar trees look like they form roughly a line.
Yes.
Is how far to the right of this photo, which would be to the south, would you estimate the property line is?
So the property line is 15 feet south of the pool deck, so 15 feet from the pool deck towards where this picture was taken from. So it's pretty much, it's all well vegetated. If you're looking to the right side of the picture, that whole line of cedars goes down to probably the end of the deck. And then next to the corner of the bulkhead is a little more open. It's all natural beach grass, similar to what you're seeing in the foreground of this photo.
Yeah, I'm wondering how much of this area that we're looking at would be vegetated under Marty's proposal. It sounds like 15 feet from the deck is going to hardly go as far as the trees.
Yeah, I think that the trees are all within that 15-foot area because they're really butted up against the deck for the most part.
Okay.
So the fact of the matter is this area is already acting as a naturally vegetated non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. It's just not necessarily on a piece of paper stated as such. We really don't want to have to deal with going through Chase again in hopes that it doesn't take another year for them to approve something. So we would rather just keep things status quo as far as the covenant is concerned. And they technically wouldn't be able to clear this area anyway without wetlands permits. There's no reason for them to clear this area. The additional triangle that Marty is looking for in front of the deck is actually pretty close to the deck and probably should have been part of the original request 3 years ago. I think it wasn't because of its proximity to the deck. I think it's 10 feet, the buffer. in that corner, and then it expands to about 15 for the remainder of the property.
So Daphne, is there anything else that that Marty's recommending as mitigation that you have an issue with?
I think that was basically his mitigation request. There is a bit of wire fence that is in the buffer on the corner of the bulkhead that they had there for safety reasons that needs to be taken out to be in compliance with the covenant, and they have no problem doing that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else?
No, I think that's really about it. Both of my clients should be on if you have
I'm
any
on.
questions.
Hi.
Hello.
As Daphne said, I mean, we've owned the home for 6 years and we've never touched the area because, quite frankly, we enjoy the way it looks and the privacy it does afford us. And like Daphne said, the dealing with Chase to get them to agree to sign the paperwork was torturous. It was 13 months of several phone calls a week rather. I'm sorry.
Okay, Daphne, I got more questions for you, but first I want to hear Marty's report.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Good evening. Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated September 30, 2020. At this time, I would ask Karina to share the sketch that I provided to the applicant.
Yes, I am. I just had to reach.
Consistent with the board's policy of recommending additional buffer as mitigation when further development is planned at a site such as this. I have recommended, as indicated, a minor expansion and reconfiguration of the existing covenanted buffer. If you look at the southerly portion of the survey, I should mention the existing buffer, although well vegetated, is only about 10 to 20 wide. The property, as you can see, fronts on Smiths Creek. This is a very environmentally sensitive area. You have extraordinary vegetated tidal wetlands to the south. And so my goal is to ensure for the long term that those wetlands and their public and values and benefits are well protected. The change in the buffer that I'm recommending in that corner would include that triangular slashed area, which would actually link the existing landward boundary of the buffer with the landward boundary of tidal wetlands on the abutting vacant land to the south. And as indicated by the applicant, it would also continue along the southerly property boundary. It's minor expansion in terms of buffer, but I think it's absolutely critical to mitigate the impacts of this project. Early on, the applicant had expressed concern about delays in getting the prior covenant recorded and getting the wetland permit issued for the previously authorized work that has so far been completed. In the interest of applicants and because of the current COVID-19 situation, the town has since adopted a temporary wetland covenant policy that allows for expeditious issuance of wetland permits where covenants or amended covenants are required. And what this policy does is rather than require that we actually get a copy of the certified covenant document prior to release of the covenant, prior to release of the wetland permit, the applicant may instead simply provide notice certifying that the required covenant has indeed been filed with the sub-county clerk's office. We decided to do that because currently the sub-county clerk's office is closed to the public, although they're they're filing covenants and providing copies of covenants electronically to property owners. That process has resulted in some significant delays for applicants. So the institution of that policy addresses some of the former delays experienced by the applicant in getting the requisite wetland permit issued. With regards to the process that the mortgage bank put the property owner through, we've had other occasions where landowners have run into similar situations, and typically we recommend that they try and contact the same representatives of the mortgage bank that previously reviewed covenant documents for the property. Typically, the meets and bounds are already on file with the mortgage bank, so there's no need to go through the costly process of having meets and bounds prepared again. So I think if the applicant takes the initiative to outreach to the mortgage bank at this time to see whether or not the recommended amended covenant can be processed quickly. I think there's a way to expedite issuance of the wetlands permit. So I still recommending that the existing covenant be amended. As you know, these covenants are absolutely necessary in order to ensure long-term protection of not only that existing naturally vegetated area on the south side of the pool deck, but also to allow for the needed expansion of the buffer in the southeast corner that would still allow for what appears to be almost 10-foot separation between the deck stairs and the buffer. I have no concerns otherwise with regards to the plan construction. I'm simply asking that, consistent with the board's policies, that the existing covenant be amended to provide for the additional buffer as shown on this plan. And the only actual native revegetation that would be necessary is in that triangular area where some existing lawn would be taken up and beach grass could be planted. My other concern had been that existing fence line that encroaches within the buffer, but the applicant has already agreed to remove that fence line. Thank you.
Am I allowed to speak?
Sure.
Okay, hi, thank you. Marty, when the triangular area where you come down the stairs, the additional buffer that you present there, it doesn't seem that it really will give space to walk up into the pool area and the steps. It looks...
There actually still is sufficient area for pedestrian access. It's almost, it would be close to 10 feet separation between the base of the stairs and the recommended buffer expansion. And then as you see, you have that continued access with the remainder of the residents, landward of that existing buffer.
So from the bottom of the steps to the straight line that you're showing there, you're saying is 10 feet?
Yeah, I would say it's roughly 10 feet. That's correct.
Marty, oh, go ahead.
And the other thing is, and I say this respectfully, with Chase, it is like dealing with the Wizard of Oz. You know there's someone behind the curtain, but you can't get to them. Through work, I deal with a lot of different banks and whatnot, and they had, as Daphne said, we ended up working with people down in New Orleans, and it seems like the person would be there, but the turnover, what seems simple, I don't think actually will prove to be simple. I'm willing to try. I honestly, in the 6 years we've lived here, we've never touched that space. We've always kept it the way it was, and I think, we're very respectful of the wetlands and the whole area. So it's not a question of wanting to do anything else with the land. It's just a question of, I don't think that getting anything through Chase is a simple thing. That's, Daphne can attest because she helped me through the process. And it really was something like you wouldn't imagine, because what seems like a simple thing just wasn't.
I can certainly offer that in light of the temporary covenant policy. If indeed you do run into difficulties with the mortgage bank, based on the way the temporary covenant policy is written, we may be able to give you a much longer period of time to actually record that covenant. We may be able to hold off on our required submittal of that actual covenant until you actually look to close out the permit. Because the way the temporary covenant policy is written, it indicates that you may submit a notice verifying that you recorded the covenant with the sub-county clerk's office in place of providing us with the actual covenant. But because it's written that way, we may be able to give you up to the full 3 years of the term of the actual permit until you look to close out that permit to record that covenant. I would also offer that in the event that you outreach to the mortgage bank and you face difficulties, I'm sure that Kelly Doyle, the Conservation Board attorney, or another attorney with the town would be happy to reach out to the mortgage bank as well to see if they can facilitate the process. typically, once you've gone through the process, even if it took a very long time and was very difficult, typically the second time around, it's a little bit easier. So I would just ask that you outreach to the mortgage bank, and if you run into unique circumstances with regards to expected lengthy delays in recording that covenant, we may actually be able to extend that covenant filing period for the full term of your permit until you look to close your wetland permit out.
Okay.
Daphne,
Yes,
I'm seeing on this survey a private right-of-way.
yes.
Does that go up to the property line?
That property next door, actually, if you look up by the street, you see a 20-foot private right-of-way. That's the access from Hampton Harbor Road that then comes into the property that you're seeing to the south of the Zolos property. It's a large naturalized area that has basically a mode path for the neighborhood to come and access Smith's Creek. Not all of them are waterfront, so it's an access way for the neighbors.
Can that property be built on?
No,
But it does, so it does go right up to the property line.
yes, yes, it does.
Daphne, the portion that Marty has shaded, how wide is that going from the property line towards the pool?
It's 15 and a half feet is what
15 feet.
is scaled out to the pool. So it would basically be that entire section, of the property, not giving any maintenance area technically, which is really, like I said, they're not maintaining anything over there. It's just access to the deck if they want to reconstruct it, whatever happens in the future. I did scale off Marty's sketch on my copy that I have here, and it's 7.5 feet from the deck stairs to that triangle area. I also want to say that as far as Chase is concerned, I've had to have made at least 30 phone calls to these people, trying to get them to understand this whole process. Like I outlined earlier, they asked for an arm and a leg worth of paperwork. They asked for a letter from the town attorney's office, which we provided. We provided everything. We jumped through every hoop that they gave us.
Daphne,
Yes.
Daphne, I have a couple more questions, and you can give us your monologue.
Go ahead.
So you have that private right of way. Nothing can be built on that. Is it? I'm not familiar with that particular property. Haven't been out there to see it. But is it something where people would wander onto the Zolos property?
They could. Yes. Yes. They've actually had instances, and Lori Zolo, who's on here, can attest to the fact that she has a neighbor right behind her who rents out his house, or in the past has rented out. I think there's a new owner now, the house, and people have actually wandered onto their property to utilize their dock, thinking it was part of the rental of the house behind them.
All right. Within the realm of Chapter 325, could anything be built between the pool and the property line?
No. There's really nothing with respect to zoning would be allowed to be constructed in that area either. We had to go to the ZBA to get a pyramid variance for the garage when it was constructed. And, technically I think that the zoning board had looked at that side, the south side of the property, as a front yard at one point. Everything was clarified in the variance that we received a few years ago for the garage. But in essence, nothing could be constructed there. It's essentially just...
So nothing can be constructed there. Nothing can be constructed on the right-of-way. Marty, could you help me out here in terms of what the purpose of a covenanted buffer would be if nothing really can be done with that particular property, and nothing can be done with the adjacent property, building-wise.
Yeah, that assessment is actually incorrect. As per the town's building and zoning code, the landowner would be able to install a fence line along that southerly property line. They may be able to put additional utilities such as propane gas tanks. I think previously we had legalized the location of the pool equipment in that area. So as you know, fence lines present a barrier in terms of wildlife use. So they are of concern. And the placement of any additional utilities or let's say a kayak rack or something like that by this owner or future owner would result in clearing and loss of those valued native mature eastern red cedar trees. So the covenant is absolutely needed to ensure that none of those types of activities occur within that area. While the frontage on Smith's Creek,
they're trying to preserve the cedar trees there.
I'm sorry?
Is that what you just said? You wanted to preserve the cedar trees that are in that?
Yeah, the existing mature native Eastern red cedars. And in saying that, I'm not questioning whether or not the current landowner will continue to be a good steward of those trees. We're planning for the long term to ensure that future landowners don't cut those trees, clear that area, put a fence line in that area, put utilities or other uses in that area that would impact wildlife use and would impact the wetland values and benefits. Again, the recommendation is consistent with the board's policy of looking for expanded buffers when additional development is proposed. As the board well knows, the buffers that are being recommended here and have been required previously are considerably less than what's required under the code. Hearing the landowners' concerns about having to deal with the mortgage bank, doing everything I can to try and be as flexible as possible and to provide assistance. And as indicated in my testimony, have even offered to extend the period of time in which the required covenant has to be filed up to the date that the applicant seeks a certificate of wetland compliance to close out this permit. As the board knows, the term of our permits is 3 years, so that would give them 3 years to provide the required covenant. So I think I'm being as flexible as I can. I'm listening to the landowner's concerns, and I'm trying to do everything that I can to assist with this process.
I think you are, Marty. Thank you.
Thank you.
Marty, I have a question about that covenant, about that buffer. What do you envision that buffer would be in terms of passive or active?
Well, the buffer is going to be passive, both on the south side of the pool deck and in that southeast corner of the property. Likely in the southeast corner, that would be an area where beach grass would be planted. They could plant salt meadow cordgrass in order to ensure that the vegetation doesn't grow into that area between the buffer and stairs, thereby ensuring continued pedestrian access to those stairs and continued maintenance and safe access. It's not uncommon in these constrained situations for the board to require buffers that only have an offset of 5 feet from the base of a deck stairway. And as indicated by the applicant, the setback of the buffer, which I proposed, would be about 7 feet. So it would certainly still provide sufficient area for the applicant to access those stairs. I think with regards to why this area wasn't included in the original buffer, I think I may have given special consideration to the circumstance of the applicant. I know the applicant wanted to allow that there was sufficient yard area for a dog run. So I made the buffer as tight as I could the first time around in that southeast corner, being a lover of dogs. But I think recognizing that they're seeking to further develop this property, this is the appropriate time to further expand and maximize those buffers.
So if you were a cat person, it wouldn't have gotten a buffer that well?
No, I'm being... I'm just
asking. I mean, I have 2 dogs. But
I am a cat person as well. I love a period. But I said that just to indicate that, I've, always tried to work with this landowner. I'm always tried to be as flexible as I can and try and listen to the landowner. At the same time, I'm trying to work towards a plan that's consistent with the intent and purpose of Chapter 320.
I know what I'm getting you for Christmas.
So, my clients don't own a dog to my knowledge. I guess Lori can confirm that. But the project itself is really, it's just a roof between the house and the garage, which has no impact to the wetlands at all. And a very small addition that is a bathroom that's within an open area of the deck. So that pool has been there since, I think, like the 80s or 90s, to my recollection. I just feel like this all should have been done, ironed out in one shot for the original project. There's not much more that could possibly fit on this property that would meet zoning. As far as putting a fence on that southerly property line, there's really no reason for them to do that. The only reason they have that little bit of fence there right now is because that's the elevated bulkhead. And as we said, they're willing to remove that. It's there for more like safety reasons than anything else. I don't know if there's any way that there could be a condition that they cannot install a fence on that property line in the permit. As far as the covenant changes that Marty's addressing, it's kind of contradictory. If he's saying that we can just provide the notice from the clerk, but that he would give us 3 years to actually file the covenant. I have about 10 other projects that I could use that same thing for. So if you're going to do that for this, then I'm going to ask that for everything. And I'm sure there's a whole lot of other consultants that would have the same issue. So, I don't know.
We're happy to provide you, Daphne, with a copy of the public notice, temporary wetland covenant policy. As I indicated, it's temporary. I don't know when it'll be sunsetted by the board. Any new projects that come forward after the effective date, which was October 30th, would have the opportunity to get relief consistent with this policy. So, I'm certainly happy to work with you on other projects to make the process with regards to reporting a covenant or amended covenant less arduous. And I can now, because of this temporary policy. This public notice being provided to all applicants.
If I could just jump in regarding the public notice and the temporary policy. There's still, in order to release the wetland permit, the covenant does still have to be recorded. But what's going on is the clerk's office is issuing a receipt confirming that the covenant has been recorded. And then it's taking a couple more weeks or more to get an actual copy of the recorded covenant. So what we have done is change the policy temporarily to allow applicants to submit the receipt confirming that the covenant was recorded in order to release the wetland permit. And then they can just submit a copy when they receive that from the clerk's office after that. So the covenant does still have to be recorded prior to issuance of the wetland permit.
That's not actually the way the public notice is written. Public notice uses the word may. So it says the applicant may submit.
Right, may submit the receipt instead of the copy of the recorded covenant.
As written. So I don't know if you have since revised this public notice, but it says may, so it's not an absolute requirement.
The way it's written, it says may instead submit. So instead of submitting the recorded copy, they may instead submit the receipt confirming it was recorded. That was the intent.
Well, then I recommend that the policy be revised because it's providing misinformation right now. Thank you.
So the concern in this proposed buffer area is really not a fence, because a fence would be required to put a fence up. The requirements would be that you have to come before this board to get a permit to put a fence up. But there are some other things that could be done without a permit. So they would be a concern. I'm looking at this survey and I'm not able to tell the distance between the swimming pool and the proposed buffer. Is that in anybody's paperwork that has better eyes than I do, or with bigger print?
Which setback are you looking for? The proposed
I'm looking south of the
buffer.
swimming pool and north of the proposed buffer. I'm wondering what that space is.
Well, it's basically butted right up to the deck. So is that what you mean?
Well, if it is, I thought there was a space there, but I could not discern the distance.
There is. It's the part of the deck that goes on that side of the pool.
Oh,
Yeah,
so that there is no distance between the
No,
pool deck and the buffer?
no.
There is. Like you can walk around. There's a narrow area on that side of the pool that you can walk on the deck.
Right, but it's deck. So what he's saying, Rory, is that the buffer would extend right to the edge of the deck.
Oh, I'm sorry. I misunderstood. Sorry.
We generally leave access for repairs and such and maintenance around structures.
Yeah, but there's nothing stopping her from access going through that buffer. Because remember, we had this conversation in the past about what a non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer means. And Marty had gave testimony that you're allowed to access those areas and put chairs in and sit down in there and other activities as such. So I wouldn't see why she couldn't get in there and work under the deck.
Is that, can that be confirmed by Marty or Kelly?
Well, you know, obviously, if the landowner had to do, let's say, customary repairs to the deck, and they had difficulty accessing some of the joists or something like that, you know, we would certainly, if it was necessary, allow for some pruning of branches to get under that portion of their deck. I think, generally you can get in there, but, of course, if they have some difficulty, they just need to contact me and I'll work with them to make sure there are no issues in terms of maintaining that deck. The deck, again, is elevated, so that provides better access as well. So, I'm always willing to work with landowners with regards to their unique situations. And I would ensure that if they needed to get in that area, that they would get in that area.
Yeah, but they have to call you now to get in that area? I mean, I thought we had this conversation before where they can access that area regardless. I mean, what if they have a raccoon issue underneath that deck and a nuisance wildlife control operator has to go in there and, put a hardware cloth?
They can access that area regardless. You're absolutely correct. But I'm saying if they needed to clear or cut vegetation in order to get in there and it was a significant amount of vegetation, I would ask that they contact me prior to doing that. Okay. But yeah, the buffer is a private area. You can still walk into that buffer. Where there are openings, let's say in the beach grass along the bulkhead, I'm not adverse to someone walking in there for bird watching or, to put a chair down or something like that. We, try and work with individual landowners as best as we can. We try and keep an ongoing relationship with those landowners. So if, they needed to do anything significant, I would recommend that they contact me. But, I'm not, their unique circumstance, I'm not going to be adverse with regards to them getting into those areas.
So what's the real issue here, Daphne? Is it the codicil or the buffer?
What was the first word?
Codicil. The
Covenant?
deed, the covenant.
Oh. Well, mainly it's we don't really want to have to go back to Chase and redo something that was just done 3 years ago for a very minor project in comparison to what was done initially. That area is already naturalized except for that triangular portion. It's an extensive amount of time. It's going to be additional monies, additional things that I don't feel are really necessary for what this project is. I will say we also received a notice from the New York State DEC, who also has jurisdiction over the project, and they're asking for us to comply with their impervious lot coverage standards. I think we had applied for a variance with them to allow for 35%, where really 20 is allowed. So we're slightly over what our allowed amount is for impervious lot coverage on the property. So we're going to need to remove additional asphalt in the driveway. That will have to be part of the project as well.
Would it be possible that they would consider having this buffer as mitigation for that lot coverage? No.
No, because they want us to bring the impervious lot coverage number back down to, I think it was 34 point something or other. It equates to like 450 square feet of coverage that needs to be allotted for, and we can do that by removing more of the asphalt driveway on the flag.
The covenant is needed in order to protect the natural vegetation south of the deck. Again, I'm not expressing concern about the current landowner's management of the property, but we're planning for the long term, and to require that area be covenanted and to require a minor expansion of the covenant along Smith Creek is consistent with these with the Conservation Board's policies for other properties, and is consistent with the wetland permit issuance standards.
I think the covenant is also important for future owners as well, correct?
Yes.
So that they know what they can and cannot do.
Well, as I said, anybody who had to do something in that area would require a wetlands permit. So they would have to come before this board in order to clear, maintain, do whatever they want to do in that area that is being proposed as additional buffer.
Yeah, but they don't know that when they're buying the property unless it's divulged. I mean, when there's a covenant, it says it right there that, you know.
Yeah, well, I mean,
that's the purpose.
My
of
experience, that doesn't necessarily matter to new owners because
right.
I've seen so many people just come in and mow down buffers and vegetation and, you know.
$1,000 fine. That's it.
Yeah. No,
Rectify it. Do it now, pay you $1,000 later.
I mean, these are people who are obviously good stewards of the wetlands and the property. They have healthy wetlands vegetation in front of their bulkhead, which is not necessarily something that you come by often. This is a beautiful wetland next door to them that they are, you know, basically maintaining that buffer that Marty wants as a covenant. It's just a matter of a piece of paper versus the actual vegetation. I feel like this is almost punitive to them when their project they're requesting is extremely small.
I would just offer that it's not punitive. You know, the reason this property has so much value is because of its frontage on Smith Creek and its adjacency to the natural land. So this is not only about protecting wetland values and benefits, it's about maintaining their property values as well. The landowner is absolutely blessed to live in this location. It's a little piece of heaven. And I don't think I'm asking too much for them to work with me to ensure the long-term protection of these areas.
I will play devil's advocate coming from the banking standpoint that Chase could very well say they're not going to give them permission. They may jeopardize their financing with their mortgage bank because they're trying to do something that we think is fine, but Chase is going to see as an impediment to the market value of the property, and that's their only interest in it. And I'm thinking maybe we could just work some things into the permit to try to cover some of these things instead of trying to go. They've already had to do this once, and after you told them it took a whole year to get the bank to agree to sign off on the covenant in the first place. I don't know what they're going to see if they try to ask this for the same bank for a second time. They're gonna jeopardize their relationship with their bank, and that's a real hardship to the owner, I think.
I don't know though. That's not really awesome. So
I would recommend against making exceptions to your buffer requirements just because this landowner is having to deal with a difficult mortgage bank. In extraordinary circumstances, some landowners have decided to change their mortgage bank when they experience these kinds of difficulties. While I'm speaking on behalf of Kelly Doyle, I know that the town attorney's office will also offer to call mortgage banks in order to make this process a little bit easier. The landowner has not yet reached out to their mortgage bank for a second time. So much of this is hearsay at this point. I don't think the board should make exceptions to their buffer policies just because of a difficult mortgage bank. I think it sets bad precedents for future applications.
I'd say speculation, not hearsay, but that's just semantics.
I do know that the person that we dealt with initially is not there because 6 months after I completed this, I was trying to help another one of my clients obtain a mortgage consent from Chase and tried to contact the same person and was told that she was no longer working there. So contacting the same exact person is not a possibility. I would be starting all over again. And the only department that deals with this is in Louisiana, and they view it as an easement, even though it's not an easement. It's extremely arduous to deal with these people.
I don't think the bank issue is really our issue in 325 and really anything we should be worried about. I mean, I don't see a big deal about the covenant. And also, I also don't think that because the property owner lives in a piece of heaven, you know, that any of that should matter either. I mean, we're bound to 325. I don't see why they, you know, we're asking for a covenant on this property like we do most. If you were arguing about the size of the buffer, you know, and we reduce the size of the buffer, and it would still have to be covenanted. So, I mean, you know, it's not like you're even arguing about the size of the buffer, you know, and, you know, there's not a, you know, an argument for dealing with the bank. That's really not something that this board should be worried about. You know, I mean, the project will not be done if that's the issue, I would think. So
I think Tom raises a good point, Michael, and as much as Marty is raising a good point about the buffer, there should be some middle ground in terms of an applicant trying their due diligence to conform to the board and not being able to accomplish that. And the board has got to, in my opinion, I think the board has got to give some kind of leeway after they've demonstrated that they've tried, they've used their due diligence to try and adhere to what the board wants. Certainly, Tom raises, I certainly would not want to have my relationship with my bank jeopardized because of something like this. And I certainly would not want to have to switch banks, switch my mortgage with another bank over a situation like this. So I think there has to be some room where we at least take a look at what transpires. I mean, if they try in a good period of time and they're unable to get what they need to comply with the board, we've got to take another look at it, I think.
yeah, but we look for a practicable alternative in terms of design and other ways of doing things. I mean, if we're going to start talking about banking, then everyone with a Chase Bank is going to come in with the same argument, I would think.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that makes me worried about, you know, where we're going with this Chase Bank issue. Because then, you know, and I'm not one to say, hey, mortgage rates are at an all-time low and they have the right to apply to a different bank. I mean, I'm looking at 325 and I just don't see, you know, mortgage banks being listed in that. That's all I'm saying. I understand that it is a hardship.
In that respect, I agree with you, Michael. I agree with you in that respect, but I also think that we have to be cognizant of an applicant's situation realistically.
I'm balancing at the size of the project. It doesn't seem like a very major project to ask them to do this for. If it were a bigger project, I wouldn't be taking that stance. I would be fine with you get the covenant no matter what it takes. But for something that's not a relatively large thing to be doing, that's the only reason I happen to be siding the way I am this time. It's only
I was at the same spot with you until I heard about the DEC saying that, you know, about the pervious structures and that they need to rip up some asphalt to be able to meet the needs of the DEC. So then I say, how much, you know, look at how constrained the lot is and look what's there and the proposed, which I don't know, they don't have an issue with the non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer. They have an issue with the covenant, but the covenant needs to be there to warn future property owners of what was done and what, you know what I mean? So I was with you for a minute and then I kind of got put to the side, but I have ADHD,
well,
you know that.
I brought it up. If I'm in the minority, that's fine. I'm just bringing it up to get people to think about it. That's all.
Tom, I tend to agree with you. This is a very minor expansion. And yes, I also agree that we should not bring in banking in order to make a decision. It's difficult. It's not black and white. There's a lot of gray there. But to open this whole thing up and, you know, with the bank, I just don't think it's worth it. Can you use that they have to rip up the asphalt driveway as mitigation? I mean, can we look at other things? you can't take down any trees or put a fence there unless the owner, the applicant, gets a permit. So in a sense, it is protected. Not as much as it would be with a covenant, but the renovation is really that they're doing is minor. So I think we're asking for something that is bigger than what they're doing. So you're not in a minority. Maybe the two of us make a minority. But
Well, thank you, Ann. And thank you, George.
I've been listening to both of several of you, and you all bring up important points of accuracy. I do think in terms of the way George is thinking too, just trying to think of what can we do here that satisfies the concerns that Marty has, and also can satisfy the concerns of the owner.
It sounds like we might have to rip up that asphalt driveway down the road as well.
Well, they're going to rip up part of it, and from our perspective, that is some mitigation. It may not be termed mitigation, but that is an environmental benefit. But I'm looking at something else that we haven't talked about, and that is incentive. And on this particular property, what I've heard from the testimony is that there is an incentive by the applicant to keep heavy vegetation in that area of proposed buffer south of the pool. In other words, if they left this alone, they probably would not do anything there because they don't want a pathway there. They don't want people to walk in from the right of way. So it's their benefit to keep heavily vegetated, those trees there, for example, and other vegetation. The only area that I look at that I would like to see something done is that part at the bottom of the steps, that little triangle. That is what I would characterize as the most important because the incentive is not so great in that area. But Ann brings up a very important point, and that is that I'm really surprised you're spending this much time on it. It's such a small project. So the bottom line is, whether we do something or don't, I'm not sure it has a whole lot of impact, particularly compared to some of the things that we look at. So I think we need to get real on this and make a decision and move on. And the bottom line is, I don't think it makes a whole lot of difference environmentally what we do because we're not talking about a hill worth dying over.
I will say one more thing. The garage permit technically, by letter of the law, expired 1 year ago, 3 weeks ago. So that's, technically the valid permit for the prior project just expired 1 year ago.
I would also offer that where you have a situation like this, where you have an elevated pool deck and you got a side yard like that, oftentimes landowners use that area for storage of pool chemicals, for storage of gasoline and other contaminants that are toxic and can pose significant risk not only to ground and surface water quality, but to wildlife and aquatic life. Because these are out of the way areas. They're below an elevated deck.
Speculation. They have a shed on the property and a garage.
Well,
That's speculation. That's not fair.
I don't think it's speculation. I've been doing this job for 30 years, and I know what often happens in those areas. Protection and restoration of natural vegetation is more important than virtually anything else with regards to protection of surface waters and naturally vegetated tidal wetlands. So I stand by my testimony that that expansion of this buffer is absolutely critical.
If I may say,
the applicant has difficulties with the bank, we'll deal with it. And if we have to bring the application back to the board, we'll do that. But at this point in time, I'm not hearing any evidence that the applicant has outreached to the mortgage bank yet. So we don't know whether or not they're going to experience difficulties, and if they do, what those difficulties are going to be. There is nothing different about this property. require covenants all the time. And I'm very concerned about making an exception because of the particular mortgage bank that this landowner is using. My office and the office of the town attorney will do everything possible to work with this landowner to address any issues. Thank you.
Okay. Am I allowed to speak?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. First of all, we do not store anything under the deck. There are no chemicals, no pool chemicals. The pool equipment is over by the driveway area. And the second is, and I think Marty can attest to this if he remembers, you know, my husband and I are very sensitive, and we believe that where we live is a gift. You know, it's, you wake up in the morning and you hear the birds and you see them. It's beautiful. We actually reported a person who drove their car in next door in the right of way, took a weed whacker, whacked all the grasses down and went in with a shovel and dug it up. And my husband went in and confronted the gentleman. So, you know, it seems that, you know, and again, I understand what Marty's saying. I understand all of the concerns, but we are well aware of the responsibility that we have to protect the environment and the area where our house is located.
And I would just offer again that, Ms. Zoll, I'm not concerned about your management and stewardship of the property. You've been a great steward of the property. A lot of this is about protecting the conditions for the long term, as we don't know who the future owners of this property will be.
And to the point of the bank and whatnot, for the very large, you know, when we were adding on the garage, I totally understood about getting the bank. And I understand that, you know, it's our personal dilemma that we happen to have a mortgage with Chase, and they're, you know, proved to be very difficult. But the scope of that project was, as you guys were saying, so much bigger that I wouldn't have even thought of asking for forgiveness from that portion of the request.
The code actually recommends that where new construction is proposed within the existing footprint of structural improvements, that a minimum 50-foot buffer be established. So I'm asking for a very minimal buffer.
No buffer, no covenant, right? Can't have a buffer without a covenant.
Well, you can, but we try and make sure that buffers are covenanted in order to guarantee their long-term.
Wait, so we can have a buffer without a covenant?
Well, you can, but
right.
It's.
There you go.
Typically I'm sorry. It's typically recommended that you record a covenant so that buffer requirement runs with the property. That's not to say you can't require a buffer without a covenant. Yes, you could condition the permit upon preservation of that existing natural vegetation on the south side of the deck, as well as planting of that additional triangular area with native vegetation without requiring a covenant. But the covenant does add that additional level of security and it helps to ensure that future landowners will abide by those requirements.
I think we should have the covenant, but from what I'm seeing with this board looks like they want, the applicant is cool with the buffer. They're not cool with the covenant because of Chase. I'm on the side that says I don't care what the bank thinks. It's not our issue. But I think the votes are here to let this thing go. So figure out a way to make the buffer without the covenant. So I think that's the way this board's going to be voting. And I'd rather just get this thing moving and close it out.
The way to do that, if the majority of the board is not interested in requiring a covenant, is to condition the wetlands permit upon preservation of the natural vegetation on the south side of the deck, as well as expansion of the natural vegetation in that southeast corner, consistent with my sketch, and to require that area be maintained as natural cover. And then perhaps we can address these areas when a future landowner comes forward and proposes additional improvements. So if the board is not looking favorably upon requiring a covenant, I would still ask that the wetland permit be conditioned upon preservation of the natural vegetation on the south side of the deck and planting of native vegetation within that triangle area in the southeast corner of the lot in order to connect the existing corridor of natural vegetation with the landward boundary of wetlands on the abutting property to the south. Thank you.
I support that wholeheartedly as a dog owner.
Daphne, do I see a thumbs up?
I think that's possible. Lori?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we ready to close the hearing?
Motion to close.
I am.
Actually, we have to, is there anybody else in this, anybody else want to speak on this application? Is there anybody else in the audience?
Yo.
Harry, before you close up, I'd like to say something. I don't believe that the applicant has gone forward to the bank to even see if there's going to be a problem. And I think I also agree with Marty and Michael on the point of really not needing the covenant. But we don't know if the bank is going to give her a hard time or not. We're guessing it's going to happen. I would like to see at least an effort put forward to the bank and some indication of where they stand with this before we abandon a covenant on a piece of property that could change hands many times. So while I do agree with Marty and he said to do it without a covenant, I would like to see a covenant first, or prior to that, I'd like to see if the bank is going to give them a hard time. That's all I
have. Before, Jerry.
That?
Just a quick question. Don't you need a majority plus one to amend the covenant, or not amend the covenant in this particular instance?
This is a new covenant.
Right, but you would be amending the original covenant in order to expand it. I think that's how the county requires it.
No, we weren't talking about doing that.
You could record this as a new covenant because you're not actually changing the prior covenant. You're recording a new one.
So Jerry, your suggestion is that they at least, before we move ahead with not requiring a covenant, your suggestion is that they at least try to get a covenant from the bank. And if they fail, then we can deal with that situation.
Yes, and then we could go to what Marty was talking about. I'd be comfortable with that. But there has been no effort made even to do this. And I think that we're guessing that there's going to be a problem. So I'd like to see.
I like your idea, Jerry.
I do too, Jerry. That was awesome.
So we'll adjourn this for a year until they get an answer from their bank?
And I'd like to say something. If we do that and then we come back, what we're saying is we're making a decision because of banking. and I don't agree
Yeah.
with that. Although I sympathize
Either gonna do it
with
or we're
their
not.
problem with the banking, my decision is being based on the fact that the expansion, what they're doing is so minor that I think that Marty's suggestion or offer to issue a permit and then require certain things in that permit is more appropriate to what the applicant wants to do. And then we do not set a precedent that we are basing it on somebody's banking needs, which will open up a whole thing.
Thank you.
So I then would make a motion rather, well, I guess if we have a motion that we close it and vote on that.
Me too.
We have a motion, and Tom, did you second that?
Well, I mean, if that was an actual motion or just saying we'd like to, that's the way she'd like it to go. You know, I mean,
I can,
we're not making a motion all of us on how we're going to direct the permit to be written just yet, are we? Are we?
No, I
Okay.
just want some clarity as to the process, what
If
we're
you
doing.
want all of our opinions as to what we think the permit should include, I agree with Ann. When we actually vote to close the hearing and issue the permit, then you know that we all have those opinions in mind, but.
Okay. Jerry, do you understand Ann's concern? Do you also share that?
Yeah, I understand that absolutely. That the banking should have no influence on 325. But you know, on the other hand, I believe that it might go smoother, and we wouldn't have to make a decision about any precedent if we could easily get the permit. I mean, the covenant.
Yeah, so what Jerry's saying is, if they brought a letter, you know, showing that they did try, he'd be voting right now. Right, Jerry? Is that, if you had a vote right now, Jerry, without them approaching the bank, you're going to vote no because you'd rather have the covenant. But,
correct.
And you would probably be cool with adjourning this meeting right now to give them some time to reach out to the bank to come back to us. And then you'd reevaluate the situation, correct?
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
But you see the dilemma.
But as Ann says, then we're judging it
Exactly.
based on the bank.
Yeah, I understand.
I wasn't saying we should base it on the bank either. I'm just bringing it up as just an issue that's going to detriment the landowner for something that I feel is not a big enough issue to. It's not a big enough hill to fight over.
Right. And then what we came up with was when Marty was speaking that not every property needs a covenant, and there are other ways of doing things. And that's why, you know, what we said before was we would be fine with, they're fine with the buffer at, you know, with the expansions. And Marty said, well, then if they did that, he would present this, and that's where we were at. So.
Because the existing covenant still exists. This is just what we're doing to try to mitigate this small addition to their property.
So let's get a motion and move on.
I move that we move forward with issuing the permit with the verbiage about just protecting the area that Marty had concerns over by putting conditions in the permit and not going to ask for an additional covenant or an amendment to the existing covenant.
To close the hearing.
Close the hearing.
So just for clarification, your motion is to essentially abide by Marty's proposed buffer minus that arduous requirement of making it a covenanted buffer.
Correct.
And you seconded that.
yes.
And now let's vote. Harry, aye. George?
Nay.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
I,
Jerry?
Nay.
Michael?
Oh. Oh. You know, I love these positions. But Marty said that this is not something that has never been done before. So therefore, I'm a aye.
We have 4 votes, and the hearing is now closed. Well, actually, we didn't do that just right. I have to look back on it. I think we didn't vote to close the hearing. That's what we should be doing.
We did.
But we did?
We did.
Okay. Oh,
We
all right.
put in at the
Okay.
end with the motion to close.
Okay, so you voted to close the hearing and to abide by Marty's renewed.
And direct the permit be prepared in that way.
Yes, okay, good. Good, we have 4 votes. Thank you all. Thank you for all the testimony and your participation. So we're done with this one.
Thank you all very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
You
You
too.
too.
Thank you. That concludes the public hearings. And the next on the agenda is advisory reports of section 292-39B, Seatuck Cove Estates.
Teresa Mason from the Environment Division in Southampton, from Southampton. The subdivision is a 4-lot subdivision with a large open space property that fronts on the water. The subdivision map includes the covenanted open space, the dedicated open space extending at least 100 feet landward of the wetlands. All structures will be 125 feet landward of wetlands. There is an allowance for a 4-foot wide path down to the water. There's an existing bulkhead at the southerly end of the property. And so the 292-39B referral lays out the conditions as it relates to wetlands on this proposed subdivision.
Is there a motion to approve the draft conditions of final approval?
So moved.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby approves the draft conditions of final approval of the subdivision of Seatuck Estates, which were referred by the Planning Board to the Conservation Board on November 24th, 2020. All in favor? Harry, aye. George? Aye. Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
And Michael?
Aye.
Administrative wetland permits are in your packets. Conditional approval.
Wait, you have to go over the scope for 90 and 94.
Oh, sorry, I completely skipped that one. Sorry, we got one more. Planning Board, 94 Dune Road Holding Corp. Yeah, we got to do that tonight. The draft DIS scope.
Okay, so Teresa Mason from the Environment Division. This property is known as 94 Dune Road Holdings Corp., also known as Dockers, which currently houses a non-conforming restaurant and dock with some tennis courts. Again, as discussed at the last meeting, this application for the conversion of the existing restaurant, non-conforming restaurant, to 25 condominium units, which is also a non-conforming use, requires a preparation of a draft environmental impact statement due to the potential negative impacts of having 25 units on this parcel, which is approximately 8 acres, half of which is wetlands. The draft scope, which I had emailed to you and had discussed at the previous meeting, has various bullet points, which we discussed. And I wanted to see if you guys had any additional comments that needed to be incorporated into the report. I had sent it to the site plan to you, the draft scope, and the draft comments. Generally speaking, most of the comments would have to do with additional permits that are required, also permits from the trustees that may be required with respect to the dockage at the site and the classification, whether it's seasonal, transient, or year-round usage. There is also some issues with respect to the soils section. So again, I went over most of it, and I went over most of it at the last meeting. I just wanted to get your feedback and see if there was any additional items that you wanted to have incorporated into the plan, into the report. So I'm ready for any feedback that you guys have.
I have a question, Teresa.
Mm-hmm.
The first comment you make is about them coming to the Conservation Board for a permit. Is that
No,
going to
they will not
happen?
actually. No, they will not actually come to the Conservation Board. It is going to be a wetlands permit that is issued through the Planning Board because it's technically a site plan permit. So what will happen is when the reason why we are getting this document is we are considered a quote unquote involved agency. As an involved agency, the Conservation Board provides feedback to the Planning Board to incorporate in the wetlands permit that they issue pursuant to the town code. That's how the town code is written. So we're going to get a binder about this thick in about a year or so that says these are all the site constraints, these are all the potential impacts, these are ways to mitigate it, these are ways that are alternate practicable alternatives. And then we would read through that, we would prepare another report. It would probably be like 6 or 7 pages long, and that would get sent back to the Planning Board, and they would incorporate our comments into any decision that they make. We had done something similar. The most recent project that we did that was similar was the CPI project, where they built the condos on the canal, and they had the sewage treatment plant.
Thank you, Teresa.
You're welcome.
Kelly, my question here is I cannot believe that a project of this nature that would have such an impact on tidal wetlands, that we have no control over this whatsoever. All we have is an advisory capacity. Can you please explain how that happens in town government to me? Maybe you cannot explain it.
That is the way the town code is written. As Teresa said, the planning board is the lead agency. Under the town code, the conservation board cannot take the lead on this. They can only give comments and advisory reports to the planning board.
That I find that, I don't know the right word for that, but
George, that is true with all of the site plan reviews. The planning board is given the authority to issue wetland permits when a site plan is required, because they are the planning arm, but they do ask for our input.
George, my understanding is when the town board adopted this code section that said that the planning board would issue the wetlands permits as part of their site plan approval, it was to streamline the process. And that is why they are required to send the conservation board comments, which is another reason why we just did the 29239B referral, so that the applicant didn't have to go to 2 different boards. And that the board, the planning board would incorporate our decision, our recommendations into their decision. Again, it's even if they came separately and got a wetlands permit separately from the town conservation board, the findings that are rendered after the draft environmental impact statement is adopted is binding to the conservation board. It is binding to the health department. It is binding to the state. That is why a DEIS is prepared, so that it is binding to all the involved agencies. So because it is mainly a residential redevelopment of a multifamily unit, that is at the planning board level. So even if they had to come to us for a separate permit, the findings of the DEIS would be binding upon the conservation board. So you would have to abide by their findings.
And I should also mention that, of course, the draft environmental impact statement will be referred to the Conservation Board. It's a great opportunity to not only express any concern about potential wetland impacts, but with regards to any other possible environmental effects of this project. So this board will still have a significant opportunity to comment on this project through that process.
So
And just to further alleviate your mind, part of the reason why the draft environmental impact statement and positive declaration were done, or the DEIS is required, is because of our previous comments to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So we have received a referral from the Zoning Board of Appeals on this application, wherein they were trying to go from one non-conforming use to another, and we had given them like a 12-page, maybe like 4 or 5 page memo that said, hey, we got this, and this, and this. And the zoning board was like, oh my goodness. And so they punted it over to the planning board, and the planning board was like, well, we see this giant memo from the conservation board. Let's incorporate it into our reasonings for issuing a positive declaration. And they lifted entire passages from our previous referral in their positive declaration, which is available from the planning division, if you want a copy of that.
So, but will this come back to us before it's finalized?
Absolutely. That's the big binder I was just telling you about. It's going to be probably like 300 pages. Marty and I will go through it. We'll write up some comments for you. We'll send you copies. You'll read through everything if you want to. And then you can, incorporate your comments throughout it. But yes, it will come back to you. It's a draft environmental impact statement. So they are going to draft up the binder, they send it to us, we read through it and say, well, we disagree with this because of A, B, and C, and we disagree with this point because, X, Y, and Z. And then it gets sent to the planning board, and the planning board says, yeah, all of this you need to fix in your DEIS. And then they come back with a final environmental impact statement, which may or may not be adopted by the planning board.
That's my fear.
Teresa, is there any way along this process that it can be refused or stopped? I'm very familiar, as some other people on the board are, with this area, and it's the worst possible place to put anything like this here. It's smack in the middle of some of the most sensitive wetlands and the last left in that area. The flooding. I was there this afternoon at dead low tide, and you could still see the flooding along the roads all there. They talk about 2 parking spaces on the road. There is no place. The cars can't even get by there.
Right. And that is part of the reason why a draft environmental impact statement is prepared, is for the lead agency, the planning board in this case, to say, you know what, this project has so many impacts to both the environment, to transportation, to this, that, and the other thing, that it's not worth proceeding, or you need to go forward on this alternative that was required to be submitted alongside with your application, with your DEIS. And they do have the opportunity to deny it, but
Okay, so there is that slim possibility.
It is a possibility, yes.
Okay.
Who's responsible for the draft environmental impact study?
The consultants prepare it. They hire a an engineering firm. In this particular case, it's an engineering firm.
We have nothing to do with that.
No. They take a long time to prepare. We probably will see it in 6 to 8 months at the earliest.
It just defies my thinking that we just spent an hour and a half discussing a 15-foot buffer, okay? And we have no direct impact on this particular project, which is, in my eyes, huge.
It is.
This is your opportunity to have an impact by providing comments on the draft environmental scope, saying you need to look at A, B, C, D, E, F, and G, and you need to evaluate those impacts. That is your best first opportunity to have an impact on the project. Now, again, when it comes in as a DEIS, you have, again, a second opportunity to review it and consider it and make recommendations. And one of your recommendations could be, this project is awful and it should be denied. You could even state that the first thing, saying, this is awful, we don't like it, you should go deny it. But if you approve it, you got to do A, B, C, D, E, F, and G.
So could we get a statement in there that we have really serious concerns about the enormity of this project and where it's located in the wetlands, and we think that it should not go forward? Is that possible?
I could add a statement to that effect. We had done a similar statement stating we had to the zoning board when we received that referral, stating we had significant concerns regarding the enormity of the project on the sensitive site. I can replicate that kind of statement, but in this early portion of the process, you don't really say that it should be denied, right? You know, but I can add that statement.
You have to like not convict somebody before you hear the evidence.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah.
But you can say we have significant concerns regarding the enormity of the project on such a sensitive lot. You know, it really needs to be looked at hard. It may need to be significantly scaled back, you know, and proceed that way.
Yeah, I would like that, you know, so that they don't think, oh, well, we're just going to give you some recommendations if it goes forward, but that we're concerned about it, or at least I'm concerned about it. I don't know how the other board members feel.
Okay, I will gladly add that statement. I'll add that as the first statement.
Teresa, you have a lot of good stuff in there. You've got a lot of points. We went over it last time, and I haven't scanned it right now, but it might be that what I'm gathering from the gist of the conversation here is that we place the standards for issuance of a permit that Chapter 325 offers very high on our list on this, particularly on this property. In other words, the setbacks, the buffers, such things as that. And when the buffers are maintained and when the setbacks are adhered to, then that severely restricts how much can be done on this property.
Right. And at the end of the report, you'll notice one of the things that I had recommended in the comments was that the alternatives that need to be evaluated is a quote unquote as of right pursuant to a residential subdivision. So they would exclude all the wetlands and determine a yield. 4 lots, 5 lots, 2 lots, whatever, and those lots would have to conform to the wetland setback. So that was one of the recommendations, is that they consider a quote unquote as of right alternative under a residential subdivision. And again, it does say, I'll double check, but I'll make sure that there is a notation that the setbacks are strictly adhered to.
And that all infringements are mitigated.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, that is part of the reason why a DEIS is being prepared.
Mm-hmm.
How does this compare to other units that were built on Dune Road? Let's say, like, say Bay Point condo complex and other.
I don't know the answer to that. I know that a lot of those condo complexes are actually in the village of West Hampton or West Hampton Dunes. I believe the only condo complex that we have in the town of Southampton, aside from this proposal that is on Dune Road, is Round Dune.
Round Dune.
Yeah, that's right across the road from Dockers.
Right.
And there's serious erosion problems there.
Right.
Right.
We actually
It almost fell into the ocean.
Yes.
Mike,
And with this last storm, the ocean is right up to the dunes again, and it looks like it came through a few places.
Go ahead, Mark.
we actually do have a large, fairly new condo complex in the town portion of West Hampton. This project is expected to be as large or larger than that project.
Right, because most of the stuff you normally see, maybe it's a duplex with 9 homes. This is 25.
Yes.
Yes, that is correct. 25 plus a swimming pool plus a sewage treatment plant.
I'm gonna need it.
And the tennis court, which they got a permit for many years ago, has never been built. I think they're including the tennis court, which would get built in this too.
No, there is no tennis court approval.
Okay.
Very shallow water over there, very poor water quality over there. I mean, I don't have the privilege of looking at your comments because my email account is down. Is it a password issue? But I would have liked to have seen that prior to this coming up. But I trust that you guys hit them over the head with our comments on this one. Right, Marty?
Absolutely.
Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
And Teresa, I don't know if it's important to get in there, but Jerry brought this up about the flooding, you know, in point number 9, where there's reference to the inundation during future storm events. You know, at this point, there's even a sign up there, you may not be able to get through during high tides. There's flooding there without storms, just on a regular basis.
Right. If you look at point number 11, the transportation subsection, it says needs to be amended to ensure the analysis of traffic impacts associated with construction during the summer season is included in the DEIS. Furthermore, traffic impacts during a coastal evacuation needs to be included in the draft scope. And then also item 12, it goes on to say, therefore this, oh wait, no, that's not the right one. Number 9, it talks about the coastal evacuation and the storm events and potential barrier breach.
Teresa, could you clarify, these comments are in regard to their DEIS scope, which is
That's
really
correct.
DEIS, correct?
Right. So it is in response to their scope. So the process works like this: the POSDEC gets issued, and the applicant submits a scope, which is an outline of what's going to be discussed in the DEIS. And this is where we say you need to talk about A, B, C, and D also, and that would get incorporated into their final scope, which would be the basis for their draft environmental impact statement.
Okay, so this is a preliminary process before they actually do the DEIS, correct?
That's correct. Everything that gets put in the final scope that gets adopted by the planning board has to be addressed by the applicant in the DEIS.
Okay, so that's the next thing that we'll be waiting for, is the actual DEIS.
That's correct.
And then we can respond to that.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any other comments they want to add to the report?
No, just you did a very nice and thorough job. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay.
Is there a motion?
Making a motion to have the comments sent?
Second?
All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And now the administrative wetland permits in your packets. We'll move on for conditional approval. A 020009 Almonds LLC. Any discussion?
Move to issue?
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Almonds LLC for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
A 020053 Lewis Kennedy. Any discussion?
Move to issue?
Second.
Resolved that a conditional wetland permit approval be granted to Lewis Kennedy for the proposed project upon the terms and conditions set forth therein. All in favor? Harry, aye.
Aye.
George? Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
Preliminary review secret determination. A 020028 Erica Wallmeyer.
Teresa Mason from the Environment Division. This property is located in Sagaponic in the village there where we administer their wetland code for them. This is at the end of Seascape Lane rather, and there are extensive wetlands on the property, and they are seeking to build a new 2-story dwelling with a footprint of 2,889 square feet, approximately 30 feet from the wetlands, and approximately 600 square feet of decking, a sanitary system, and various other accessory structures as described in the preliminary advisory report. As you can see on the survey, there is extensive wetlands on the site. The parcel to the west is owned by the Conic Land Trust. The property contains very diverse wetlands with groundsel, hibiscus, blue flag iris. You can also see that it is regularly flooded, and sometimes the flooding extends beyond the limit of the wetlands boundary, as evidenced by different vegetation growing in the area and soil staining. The establishment of maximized wetland setbacks and buffers on this property is critical to protecting the diversity of this wetland, as well as to provide an oasis for wildlife in an area that is significantly developed with farms and residential homes. We had issued a permit in 2019 to allow for some hand clearing in order to conduct a test hole at the property. An inspection this week indicated that the vegetation that had been hand cleared in order to conduct that test hole has reverted to natural vegetation. So we had issued several notices of incomplete application on the pending application, and finally they came in with an amended plan. Our preliminary advisory report is recommending that significant project modifications be made, inclusive of scaling back the dwelling to maximum footprint of 1,000 square feet consistent with the village code, and potential exploration of alternative access routes that are less than, that are less impactful to wetlands, because as currently proposed, the access will be 0 feet from wetlands on a bit of an embankment. This would potentially include access from the common driveway to the south of the lot, and they would have to get permission from those property owners. Because of the significant project modifications that need to be made, we are recommending a public hearing on this application.
Motion to schedule a public hearing for January 13th, 2021.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules a public hearing for January 13th, 2021, and that notice of public hearing be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8C of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
A020032, Jonathan Silverstein and Natalie Silverstein and Natalie Silverstein.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town again. This application relates to an existing residentially developed property on Brushy Neck Lane in the hamlet of West Hampton. The property, as you can see, has frontage on the Speonk River and contains extensive tidal wetlands, as well as naturally vegetated buffers that have been preserved through establishment of a conservation easement and covenants previously required by this board. The applicant is seeking a wetland permit in order to undertake various renovations and improvements, mostly within the existing footprint. They include demolition and reconstruction of the on-site swimming pool, partial deck demolition and replacement with some deck addition. The stairs need to be reconfigured. The shower needs to be replaced. There's an exterior barbecue as well. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated November 27, 2020. Years ago, when the Conservation Board had previously issued a permit, the covenant that was recorded allowed for the buffer to be managed by one annual mowing throughout virtually the entirety of the buffer and easement on this property. Based on my site evaluation, those mowing practices have ceased. And we now have a thriving, biodiverse, woody and herbaceous wetland meadow and surrounding upland buffer. Although part of the existing accessory footprint would be extended, there's another portion that would be cut back. The easement and buffer taking a considerable portion of this property. I have asked the applicant to agree to file an amended covenant, which would no longer allow for active management or mowing of this buffer area, as the buffer is virtually exemplary in terms of its health, integrity, and biodiversity. The applicant has agreed to that mitigation. The applicant is also removing a fence line at the landward boundary of the easement and buffer, as it's no longer needed as a pool enclosure fence. The elevated pool can be secured by railings and gates. The removal of that fence will also remove an existing barrier to wildlife movement through the area, so will be most beneficial. This is an application for which we have sufficient information, make a determination as such, recommending that the public hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Resolved that the Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-80 of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Michael?
Nay.
A 020043 Jonesford Investments Limited. The applicant requests postponement until December 16th. Is there a motion?
Motion to postpone to December 16th.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
A 020058 Richard and Wendy Lubkin.
This application relates to an existing residentially developed property on the east side of Pine Tree Lane in the subdivision of Atlantic Farms in the hamlet of West Hampton. The applicant is looking to undertake various accessory improvements, including partial demolition and reconstruction of an existing pool deck and steps, construction of an upper deck platform above the existing decks. They're looking to remove an existing hot tub and install a new hot tub on the upper platform. They are also looking to construct residential living area additions, which is shown at the far left westerly and southeast corner of the residence. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated November 27, 2020. The property is separated from Brushy Neck Creek by an extensive area of saltwater cord grasses. However, landward of those cord grasses, there's a large stand of invasive bamboo, as well as a failing lawn area due to the periodic flooding of this property. I have no issue with the improvements that are planned, but I asked that a buffer be established extending 30 feet landward of the existing wetlands. That would allow for a maximized buffer on this property. I've asked that the existing bamboo thicket on the property be eradicated. I've asked that the lawn areas be taken up and that native vegetation be planted. I've asked that the on-site wetlands and recommended buffer be covenanted. I've also asked that the septic system be upgraded in order to include an innovative alternative on-site wastewater treatment unit that can probably be done by switching out the septic system. Otherwise, the complete system will need to be replaced. The applicant has agreed to all this mitigation. So this is an application for which we have sufficient information to make a determination. Accordingly, I'm recommending that the hearing requirement be waived.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8E of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Gary?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
A080068, Jonesin for the Beach, LLC.
Therese Mason from the Environment Division. The application is to legalize the demolition of an existing one-story dwelling with approximately 1,100 square foot footprint, located approximately 82 feet from the wetlands, and to legalize the partial reconstruction of the foundation, and proceed with completing residential additions that were previously authorized. The parcel is located on Jones Road, and it is on a portion of Shinnecock Bay and and Carter's Creek. It is a type 2 action pursuant to seeker in Chapter 157 of the Town Code. The Conservation Board had granted a permit in 2019 to allow for construction of a one-story addition on the landward side of the existing dwelling, as well as to build a seaside deck addition. And such permit was conditioned upon installation of a new septic system. The work on the addition was stopped in October 2020 because they had demolished the existing structure and begun reconstructing and reframing the structure, as well as the new addition. The applicant submitted a new wetlands permit in accordance with the requirements, and included in that application was a letter from an engineer, which stated that the pre-existing framing and the exterior walls were being replaced, but that it had become unstable during the reconstruction portion, and they demolished it because it became unstable. The demolition and reconstruction in the same footprint, as well as the completion of the previously authorized additions, can be legalized and can proceed pursuant to expansion of the existing covenant along the northerly property line, which, if you can look on the aerial on the survey, comes up to about the 22-foot contour line. We did do a sketch, and so long as the applicant is willing to agree to the required mitigation or recommended mitigation, we can proceed without a public hearing.
Motion to waive the public hearing.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby waives the public hearing requirement pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8E of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
A020070, Peter E. Castro and Joan R. DeMaria as joint candidates with right of survivorship.
Marty Shea, Chief Environmental Analyst for the town. This application relates to an existing residentially developed property in the private community of Shinnecock Shores. On the lot has frontage on an existing man-made canal or dug lagoon. There is a preliminary advisory report on file dated November 27, 2020. Excuse me, Karina, you might want to shift the survey a bit so they could see the property, as we're only looking at the swimming pool cross view right now. Yeah, thank you. The applicant is seeking a wetlands permit in order to construct an in-ground swimming pool on the water side of the house. When I inspected the property, I found the rear yard leading down to the lagoon to be moderately sloped and heavily eroded. As a result, recent bulkhead reconstruction work done pursuant to a trustee's permit. I also found the frame shed, which you see in the northwest corner of the property, to be a new, larger shed that was installed to replace the former shed without requisite wetland permit. I've asked that the shed be relocated further landward, and that a covenanted, naturally vegetated wetland non-disturbance, non-fertilization buffer be established 24 feet landward of the wood cap alongside the bulkhead. That is consistent with this board's policy for interior bulkheaded canal lots in Shinnecock Shores. The landowner has expressed, I have also asked that they come forward with a slope stabilization and reclamation plan, as well as native planting specifications. The landowner has expressed concerns about these recommendations and has asked that a public hearing be scheduled. Thank you.
Are you asking for a hearing to be scheduled, Marty?
Yes.
Motion to schedule a public hearing?
Second.
The
What date?
Oh, I'm sorry. What date, George?
the resolution that is before me is for a waiving of the public hearing.
No, a hearing needs to be held. I spoke with the applicant's consultant, Kevin Springer Lake, this afternoon. He was unable to get in touch with the landowner, but he assured me that the landowner is going to want to go to a public hearing. So you need to amend the resolution before you to a hearing. I think that hearing can probably be scheduled for the second meeting in January.
It would have to go on the first meeting because of the dates.
All right, that's fine.
Do they have time to notice and everything by January 6th?
January 13th.
I'm
Okay,
sorry,
we can do
13th. 13th.
Okay, so this is
Right.
this is a motion and it's been seconded. So resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules the public hearing for January 13th, 2021, and that a notice of public hearing be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8C of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
I just want to interrupt, and is everybody aware that there's 5 hearings already scheduled for January 13th? And there's only one scheduled for the 27th?
I'm with you, George, but if the dates are requiring it, we can't go to the next one. We can't go any earlier. They need a certain number of weeks to get in the paper.
They can't do the 27th? Is that what someone said?
No, it's too far out. It's over 60 days. It's too far out.
Okay, sorry.
It's
I know, I don't like it either. That's what happens sometimes.
Aye.
Aye.
And Ann. Jerry. Michael. So that concludes the preliminary review seeker determination. Resolution to schedule public hearings, A020062, Casper and Allison Barabara.
Yeah, this application relates to a property, again, in Shinnecock Shores in East Quogue. The applicant is seeking approval to demolish and remove various residential rear decks and construct larger decks and balconies. There is an existing covenanted 15-foot buffer, which is not in compliance, being maintained as lawn. I had recommended minor project modifications, in fact, including scaling back of some of the improvements and expansion of the buffer and full restoration of the buffer. I had initially recommended at the last meeting that the applicant, that the public hearing requirement be waived. The applicant has since expressed concerns about my recommendations and would like to go to a public hearing.
All right, how many do we have on the 27th?
1.
Can we go to the 27th on this one?
Okay with me?
We can.
We can, okay. If the dates don't restrict us, then schedule a public hearing on the 27th, I move.
Second.
Resolved that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules the public hearing for January 27th, 2021, and the notice of public hearing be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8C of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And wetlands modification permits / scheduled public hearings, CB 17018, Anthony Skembry.
Teresa Mason from the Environment Division. The application is to legalize residential improvements, including demolition and in-kind replacement of a 660 square foot deck, construction of some steps, construction of entry walkways and various other improvements, inclusive of a hot tub. They are also seeking to legalize various structures within the covenanted buffer. We had recommended, we had spoken to the consultant for the applicant and had said that we would recommend modification approval pursuant to removal of the unauthorized structures from within the buffer, inclusive of a wood tie wall, gravel walkways, lighting, and also a walkway adjacent to the bulkhead, which was issued pursuant to a trustee permit after the covenant was filed. The applicant stated that they wanted to proceed with legalizing those structures within the existing covenanted buffer, which was filed in 2008. And so we are recommending that a public hearing be held.
Motion to schedule a public hearing.
Can we do that one for the 27th also?
Yes, for January 27th.
No,
Well, no, we can't.
no. And I think the last one you couldn't either.
Yeah, I wanted to raise that matter. I had actually recommended on the last item that you schedule the hearing for the first meeting in January, because I think it's too far out to schedule it for the second meeting in January. Correct me if I'm wrong, Karina.
No, that's right.
Well, we were asking for the dates and
resolution and act on an amended resolution.
Anything
we
scheduled
asked whether
tonight
the
cannot be
27th
put on the
was within window,
27th.
and we're told yes.
What time does the clock start on scheduling a public hearing for this 60-day window?
It's 50 days actually, and that's tonight.
50 days?
Yes.
Oh. Okay, so
So this one has to go on the 13th, and then you'll have to go back and amend the last resolution to go onto the 13th.
yes.
As well.
George, did I tell you I'm gonna be away on the 13th?
You can't even use the excuse I'll be under quarantine because you could still be on Zoom.
All right, let's do it. Is there a motion to schedule this public hearing for January 13th?
So moved.
Second.
Resolve that the Town Conservation Board hereby schedules a public hearing for January 13th, 2021, and that a notice of public hearing be published in the town designated newspaper pursuant to Chapter 325, Section 325-8C of the Town Code. All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
With 5 Hour Energy, aye.
Jerry? Oh, I'm sorry, Ann.
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.
Michael?
Aye.
And now let's go back to A020062, Casper and Allison La Barabara, and would someone care to rescind that vote to schedule hearing for January 27th? And can we do it in 2 stages, or can we do it on 1 stage?
You could just amend the prior vote just to change the date.
Okay. Would someone care to amend that date to January 27th, 13th, rather?
I move to amend the public hearing date of 1/27/21 to 1/13/21 for
Right.
Casper and Allison La Barabara.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry? Michael?
Aye.
And now we're going to adjourn this. Not adjourn it. We're gonna finish this. We're gonna we have to go into executive session. So we'll end this meeting and we'll have to do a call-in thing. Does everybody have the code?
No, because our emails don't work. So we haven't gotten it. That's at least Michael and me.
All right.
You're going to have to text me the code.
All right. Good night, everyone. Have a nice evening.
You too. Good night.
Lisa.
So-
Okay, so
I mean, I know you dial the 283-6000 number and you choose an extension, but then I need to know the code. So someone text me.
number 2.
You can email it to me at your convenience, Karina.
Okay.
All right, good night.
Okay. Good night. That's it.
Oh, wait a minute. We
Wait.
have to somebody make a
If you
motion.
make a motion. I make a motion to adjourn the meeting and go into executive. I'm sorry. I make a motion to go into executive session for the purposes of discussing litigation, after which the meeting will be adjourned. We will not come back.
Thank you.
Yeah, because you have no further business to tend to, so you can actually adjourn the meeting at this time.
Okay. So amended, but moved.
Second.
All in favor? Harry, aye. George?
Aye.
Tom?
Aye.
Ann?
Aye.
Jerry?
Aye.